Last time we were working on step 2 of my database design process. Remember that process looks a little like this. Okay, where step 1, we do the fact finding, we get a field list. We got that from Lyle, and then we modified it. Took a look at it, said here's some of the pieces that might be missing. And at the same time, usually step 1, step 2 are very closely related. It may be even done at the same time. We said here's a list of the initial tables that we see. And as we were going through it, here's the list of initial tables that we came up with. Right, with kind of a focus around work orders are for customers. Each work order lists some issues. Each work order has some services that we do. Each work order receives payments. Work orders work on devices. Right? This work order was for a computer or a printer, however we want to deal with that. Those devices have manufacturers. Our services might install parts. Those parts come from manufacturers, and technicians do our work. Phew, that was fairly complicated. But not terribly complicated, so that's a nice example to start with. Then I ask you to take a look at, or at least start taking a look at this homework assignment, the ERD practice assignment. Sorry, I'm having issues here. This ERD practice assignment, I asked you to start taking a look at it, and what I really wanted you to do in this assignment was sort out what are the tables. Well, the first one I gave it to you, so that wasn't too bad. I think you all got that one right. And here we're looking at volunteers who like to work for certain agencies. It could be United Way, could be Boys and Girls Club, could be the YMCA, who knows? Those are a couple examples of agencies. Those agencies have certain positions that they wish to fill with volunteers. Volunteers then fill those positions, and hopefully we match up their skill set. If we need somebody to do a aerobics class, that's not going to be me. So you're going to make sure we got the right skill set, and that's what that database is going to capture for us. And today we're going to talk more about cardinalities and how to determine them. So that one's kind of a given. But the next one here, we said a charitable organization would like to track how much money each of their donators have contributed to each of their causes. Now, a few of you sent me your ERDs, and one of the trends I saw in there is that this charitable organization, this health clinic, is a table. No, it's not. It's like saying Midstate needs to keep track of his students, so Midstate is a table. The college is a table. The only reason Midstate would be a table is if the database was larger than that, and we were talking about the Wisconsin Technical College system, and we want to keep track of each college and the students that are enrolled in there and the programs that they offer and those kind of things. That's beyond the scope. All right, so be careful when you're looking at this. The first part of it, a cruise line. That's the organization that wants this database. That cruise line itself is not a table. The book conglomerate, whatever that is, right, is not a table. It's the database, if you will. This is our book conglomerate. This is our cruise database. This is our health clinic database. Those big, all-encompassing, who am I building this for? That's the name of their database, not a table. So, number 2 here. The charitable organization wants to track how much money each of their donators have contributed to each of their causes. So we have a charitable organization like United Way that has multiple causes that you can contribute to. That's kind of the big picture here. Let's, as a group, come up with the list of tables that you see here. And just somebody give me one and I'll tell you, yep, that sounds like a table. John? The donator, okay, so who's giving the money? That's definitely a table. Contribution, donation is another name for that. That's definitely a table. Pardon me? Causes. What else?
That's it.
That's it. That's where I would start. Now, that's not it. Okay, those are not the only tables that are in there. But what you can't see at this point are the linking tables that are in there, the tables that help define some of these relationships. Okay. But if you all start with the same, and what we're also not showing is which of those tables are directly related to the others. But I want to make sure that coming into Thursday's class, that we all have the same table list at least. And then Thursday, we'll start taking a look at which of those tables are directly related, which ones are indirectly related. By the way, you don't think about which ones are indirectly related. It just happens. They're all either directly or indirectly related. Now, having said that, in my systems implementation class yesterday, we built a table into our database that is not related to any other. So first time I've ever done that. Lions Camp, we're building a web-based system. We want to make sure that people who don't or aren't authorized aren't spamming our system with applications. And so we have a pre-application form that we're now going to ask them to fill out with minimal data. Here's my name, here's my email, here's my phone number, here's my disability, here's my birthday. Minimal information. Am I eligible is basically what they're asking. That data gets saved into what we call a pre-app table. And the answer is either yes or no. If the answer is yes, all of the data is going to be transferred to the rest of the database. It's not linked anymore. The data is transferred. So that table kind of sits out there all by itself. Pretty rare. You're not going to see that in any of your examples in this class at all. All right, let's go on to the next one. A health clinic would like to track the patients they have in each of their doctors. They would also like to track what medicines were prescribed for each patient and who prescribed it. Joni, you're done because you've answered too many questions. Next. Who said that? Matt, was that you? Who said doctor? John, way back there? Yeah. These are loud. Okay, now you're done. Doctors. Patients. You're not done yet, but patients. Medicines. Medications is another. How you name them isn't too terrible as long as it's on the right track. Kathy? Prescriptions. So we got doctors, we got patients, we got medications, we got prescriptions. What else? Joni? Pardon me? Appointments. Interesting. No arguments. But if you started with just the four that we have, medications, prescriptions, doctors, and patients, you can start with those four. Do you think there's going to be an appointments table? Probably. Does it say here that there are appointments anywhere? No, but you can read between the lines, and most of you have been patients at one time or another, and you don't go see a doctor without an appointment, particularly at a clinic. So those four is a minimum, and if you want to add appointments to it, knock yourself out, because it's going to be there ultimately. Why do I say that? You can get away without it. It's one of those linking tables. It's what links. I'm not even going to say what links. You can imagine. Right? But it's a linking table that would have been there anyways. And if you see it in advance, more power to you. If you don't, those four tables are a good start. Questions? Yeah.
Kind of. I don't know if you're right with this question or not, but in regards to making your relationships, did you find that when you first started doing this that you kind of overthought them possibly?
Is it possible to overthink them? Absolutely. So if you're overthinking, who's your source to say you're overthinking? Besides me, of course. Yourself, maybe. Right. But these aren't your health clinics, right? These aren't your charitable organizations. They're mine, or they're somebody's. And initially, yes, you can overthink them. Typically, with experience, you'll stop doing that. But the real key to that is talking to the owner and saying, is there a direct relationship between doctors and medications here? Right? And that's a question that they might not be able to answer. And what I will often do is show the very basic ERD to my owners because they're pretty easy to understand. These are the main objects, the main tables, the main entities, the main things that we're going to be storing about in your database. Does that list look complete to you? Sometimes they will help me and sometimes they won't. The other answer to that question is I'd go minimal, first of all. If I'm not sure, if I'm overthinking it, then I'll back off. When you start building the field list, you might see some tables or relationships that you didn't see before. When you start entering in data, it sounds late now, right? Now we're entering in data. You might see a relationship that's missing. This is phase 2 of 10. Okay? 3, pardon me. We're doing the ERD because after we have our preliminary table list and we start linking them together, making our ERD, that's phase 3. This is phase 3 of 10. There's many opportunities to find mistakes here. So try not to overanalyze your tables and how they're related. But the more of them there are, the harder it gets there. So, wow.
Can I make an example?
Sure.
On the first one for this ERD assignment, it seems pretty legit where you just have the volunteer position, agency, and skill.
Yes?
When I was doing the relationship between the volunteer and position, we said go one way, so I went volunteer. There's going to be one volunteer with many positions.
Yeah.
But then when I come back, there's many positions that are going to be with many volunteers.
Well, say that again.
One volunteer.
I got that part. Say the second part again.
When I go back the other way,
Right.
then you could have many positions.
Whoa. You always, no matter which direction you're reading these things, you always start with the word one. So one position is filled by many volunteers. If you always start with the word one, it should help clarify those relationships. So Lyle's giving you a clue here. One volunteer can fill many positions. Got our over-enthusiastic volunteers. That's cool. One position, and another very common mistake is to say is filled by one volunteer at any given time. Well, yeah, any given time, but that's not what we're interested in. We're not interested in a snapshot in time. Okay? You got that? Forgot the one part. But that's why we do this stuff, right? One position can be filled by many volunteers. Maybe I fill that role on Monday, somebody else fills it on Tuesday. Maybe I filled it in 2013, you're filling it in 2015. Okay. Most databases do not capture a snapshot in time. Most. Particularly the daily type run databases that most people are working with. I can create a database that says, here's what the results, here's the data that I had at the end of year 2014. And I want to save that as its own separate database. That one's a snapshot in time. I don't create too many of those because if I want to know what positions were filled by who in 2014, this database will tell me, and all I have to do is ask. I don't have to have a separate database. If I want to know, assuming there's dates in here, I don't know what the fields are, but I assume there's dates that you held these positions. So I don't need a separate snapshot in time database. That's a very common mistake when you're trying to figure out these relationships, is to say, well, at any given time, there can only be one coach of a basketball team. True. But if all of my database is showing me is the current status, it's probably not anywhere near as useful as who have I had who filled this position in the past, hasn't been around for a couple of years, maybe they'd like to come back. That question might be just as valuable as who's sitting in that position. It will be just as valuable as who's sitting in that position now. That help? Good. We got the clinics all sorted out. Cruise lines, this one's the tricky one. Cruise line likes to track its passengers, the ships that it has. So picture, what's the big cruise line? Carnival, thank you. Celebrity is the other one, I think. But Carnival cruises, they have 5, 10, 20, I don't know how many ships, but multiple ships. They have crew members, and the trips visit many ports. So it even says many, there's a clue. Got a relationship right there, right? Each trip visits many ports. So That one seems kind of obvious to me. You've got passengers, ships, crew members, trips, and ports. That one wasn't too tough. Isaac said, darn, I was going to give him those answers. Anything else you see? Okay. Any questions you have? You don't have questions till you get it wrong, right? I understand that. One thing to recognize here is that this is a very common mistake. Passengers are not assigned to ships. Not directly. Crew members are not assigned to ships. If you're a cook and your ship is being retrofitted or whatever, you go on the next boat. Captains tend to have their own ships, but if the captain gets sick, we can put a different captain on that ship. Doesn't matter what they tend. Question is, can a crew member serve on multiple ships? The answer is absolutely. Maybe your cruise line doesn't do that. It's not your cruise line. This one's mine. I need that flexibility. I can move passengers and, well, not passengers so much, but crew members from ship to ship.
So a crew is assigned to a trip, not necessarily a ship.
Correct. That's a pretty common mistake on this one. Only because you forget to ask. You're making assumptions. When you make your initial database designs, you're going to make assumptions. That's why I like to bounce ERDs off of my customers. And if you're making the assumption, you might want to write them down, that a crew member is assigned to a ship. That's an assumption that you're making. Some cruise lines, it may be absolutely right. The next one, it may not be. In this case, it's not. The only way to know is to ask.
So the ship assigned to ports, or trips are assigned to ports?
Ships could be, that's potential, but it's out of scope. A ship's home port, I don't care. Pardon me? Trips visit ports, yes. What else? Okay. A book conglomerate, meaning, God, I can't think of anything today. What's the big book? Barnes, thank you. You guys at least reading my mind or knowing what I want to say. Barnes and Noble would like to keep track of all the stores that they have and the books that are in those stores, who wrote the books and who published them. So give me one here. Give me a table.
Stores.
Stores. You're on a roll, Steve. You want to keep going? What, Kathy?
Books.
Books. Authors. Publishers. What?
Publishing company.
No, that's the over-encompassing Barnes and Noble. I don't have a database of bookstores. If I wanted to keep a database of all the different kinds of bookstores that are out there, that's different, but this is the Barnes and Noble database. So it's worried about its stores, its books, that those stores, who publish them and who writes them.
But not customers.
No.
Okay.
Good question. Pardon me? Nothing to do with sales just yet. Nope. I just want to know, so if you go to my website, which of my stores has this book? Might include the price. But no, this is not an e-commerce type site where you can actually buy those yet. This is just a lookup site. Again, you want real world, I can give you real world, and we can spend the entire semester on one database. We don't want to do that. Keep it fairly simple. Okay. That gives you kind of an overview of what I think the tables are, where I start with at least the tables in those databases.
If we have a many-to-many relationship, do we have to reconcile it?
No. Good question. We're not there yet, because that, if I remember right, is a different step, right? In Volker's notes here someplace. We're in step 3, where we draw the entity relationship. We figure out this cardinality, or the extent of this relationship is another term. All right. It's going to be one-to-one, one-to-many, or many-to-many. and how you figure those out.
Because I was trying to avoid the many too, and I couldn't.
Yeah, ultimately you will, right? But look where the many resolution comes in.
Okay, further down. Thanks.
Step 5. Right? I don't want to go there just yet. And I don't want you to go there just yet, because resolving those many-to-many relationships requires, if you do it properly, and if you follow my methodology here, it requires that each primary key for each of your tables that you discover, your initial tables, each primary key is defined. We need those keys to help resolve the many-to-many relationships. You can figure out that there's a table in between, but then when you get to the keys, things get complicated. If you leave it in these orders, it'll make life a little bit easier. So, back to step number 3, because we're not quite done with 3. We draw the entity relationship diagram. Come on, pay attention. I push the magic button. There we go. Draw a rectangle for each one of our tables. What I did is we were going through the clinic. As I started drawing rectangles as they crossed my mind, though you don't have to do that. You can, in a separate column, list your tables as you're going through the fields and say, here's what I see. Draw a line if they're directly related. This is, I'm going to have you work on it a little bit. How do you know which ones are directly related? It can be a challenge. Figuring out if there's a direct or indirect relationship. Normally, if you're not sure, the answer is it's indirect. And then on each line, we're going to put the cardinality. And when you do these cardinalities, you always start with the word one. One lab contains, figure some word here, some ERDs actually put a diamond in here that designates that this is a relationship. If it helps you, knock yourself out. They put some verb in there, but usually that verb reads well in one direction, but it doesn't read well in the other. So realize that there's a relationship here. One lab, that's not what this one means. I start in this box. One lab is contains many computers. M is what I'm trying to figure out. One lab contains how many computers? Many. Then you reverse the process. One computer is contained in or housed in or stored in one and only one lab. So you always start with the word one. That's the mistake, well, am I right, that you were making, right? It's when the reverse order is not starting with the word one. You always start with the word one, and you always read them in both directions. So that's the second part of this. So let's go back to this diagram here and figure out, assuming that these are all direct relationships, and I got the feeling they are, let's figure out some of these and also double check our work from last time. Sam, can you see those okay back there in your cheap seats, the ones and the M's and things? Yeah. Okay, I won't make it any bigger then. We said that this is a manufacturer of computer stuff, right? Because we're talking about the PC clinic here. One manufacturer can supply us with many different kinds of parts, but a part comes from only one manufacturer. It depends on how we define parts. That's another question that you often have to ask. If the part is RAM, then we might have many manufacturers. If the part is this Kingston RAM, that's got one manufacturer, and that's the way I'm thinking about it. I can have a whole pile of parts here. And the clinic is probably not in the business of figuring out what's the best RAM. They just find the best price or whatever they do, and that part gets listed in here. One manufacturer, remember devices or computers or printers, one manufacturer can provide how many devices? Or create how many devices? Many. Ben says many, I agree. So let's see how my copying skills work today. So far so good. One device, one computer, one printer is made by one manufacturer is what I would say. Because I'm talking about one printer. right? Not, again, devices is not laser printers, dot matrix printers, heaven forbid, inkjet printers. It's not what I'm talking about. So one device is manufactured by one manufacturer, made by one manufacturer. So that's what I see here. These are subtables, the way we define them. A device is either a computer or it's a printer. It's one or the other. When we look at a device, the details about it, if it's a computer, if there's subtables like this, the details are always one-to-one relationships. When you break these subtables up, the relationships are always one-to-one. You still have to label them, even though they're one-to-one. You label them. So what this is saying is if I have a device, it's going to have details about it. In either this table or this table, it's only going to have one set of details. If this device is a computer, then we're probably going to find its twin down here, its details. How much RAM does it have? How big is its hard drive? What kind of video card does it have in it? All that stuff's going to be in here. If it's a printer instead, then it's over here. This gives us the flexibility to have different kinds of fields in a device. We could, and this is the way we might have done it many years ago, create a device table that has the amount of RAM, the kind of size of the hard drive, the kind of video card, and those would all be blank for printers. And then we get to printers and say, is it a laser printer, or is it an inkjet printer, etc. Printers, there may not be a whole lot more. It probably has some RAM. But we used to put all that in one big, huge monster table with lots of fields, and half of it was always empty, because if it's a printer, this stuff's filled in, and the rest of it's blank. And if it's a computer, this stuff is filled in, and the printer stuff is blank. This gives us the flexibility to split that up. When we do split them up like that, creating what I call subtables, the relationship to the main table is always one-to-one. Why would I have two sets of details for the same device? I wouldn't. Think of these as details for different categories. In the Lions camp, we just created a persons table. When I first looked at that and kind of rolled my eyes. I said, I don't like that. But we broke it down. The camp database keeps track of campers, counselors, guardians, emergency contacts, physicians, teachers. 6 different kinds of people. All of them have a name, right? But there's information about teachers that I don't have about counselors. There's information about counselors that I don't have about guardians. And so to keep all that separate, we created one persons table with 6 subtables. Question.
Where are the customers?
Where are the customers?
Not in that view.
They're off the screen.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
Didn't lose our customers. You're right. In this case, unlike the bookstore, in this case, our customers are very important. Okay. I just started over here. Next relationship we found was between a service that we provide and the parts that are used for that. And I said this is one-to-one. I don't think that's right. If I have a piece of 4 gigabyte stick of Kingston RAM, I could use that, not that one stick, but that one part, 4 gigabyte RAM from Kingston, in many computers. So I think that's a mistake. Should go back and listen to my logic in the other recording, but looking at it now, I see it as a mistake. Joni?
That's kind of the question I had about the books in positions, even though it's like one instance, is that, and there's several copies of the same thing, it's like parts. You got one part, but there's several numbers. Do you treat it as, like you said, when you say one part?
Can be difficult to get your head around.
Yeah.
Okay, it depends on how you define that. And again, the way I'm defining it is it includes a link to the manufacturer. So here's a part. I use RAM as an example. Here's RAM that is made by a particular manufacturer. That's kind of what I'm talking about there.
Yeah, that way it's easy, but which we're just explaining the one part.
One part, which
We'll go
is
to one
Kingston RAM,
service.
right?
Pardon?
One part, which I've now defined as Kingston RAM,
Yeah.
4 gig, can be used in for many different services. If Kathy's computer needs some more RAM and the RAM is compatible, I could use the Kingston 4 gigabyte stick in there, and I can say in my service that I plugged in one of these parts. If Kevin's needs more RAM, I could put the same one in his, not the same part, but the same catalog.
A copy. Sort
Yeah.
of. That's what I'm saying. Is that
So how do we sort that out, right?
So you could have like a quantity of 10 of that one part.
I'm not keeping inventory either. I don't think the clinic keeps an inventory. You need RAM, they go get it.
That's your thought process, right?
Right.
That's my thought process.
So you could.
So I don't have inventory.
So not that.
What I'm trying to keep track of is if I open up a catalog, say I want this, I'm going to use it to solve this problem. I can use the this to solve lots of different problems. Go ahead.
But I think the question was is that they were thinking, or even I'm still thinking about it sort of this way, is that you're saying that there's the parts, right? So you're saying that one part can go into many computers, but our mind is saying, you can't take that one part and stick it into 5 different computers. But what you're saying is that basically the part number can be used in multiple.
This is a catalog of parts, correct?
Catalog.
It's not an inventory of different parts where each one of the parts, I have 6 sticks, like she said, 10 sticks of RAM. This is stick number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Which one did I use? I'm not terribly interested in that. I'm more interested, I think the clinic is more interested in what did I put in that computer? What kind of RAM? What kind of hard drive? We could have 100 1 terabyte Toshiba hard drives. Which one of those? The ID number of what I put in there? I don't think I care. Maybe I do.
But isn't each one a separate instance of that part?
Maybe. Maybe.
Really should just be one part and go in one service.
I understand.
What?
I understand what you're saying. And this is a bone of contention. We'll see how it works out. Remember, it's my first time through it. We could both be right. No, one of us is right, one of us is wrong. Could be either one of us at this stage. We're still in phase 3 of our diagramming. We may find out a little later that depending on what they want to store, our field list may answer this question. But I'm not at this point going back to the field list to figure it out. If she's right, there's another table here. If I'm right, this is exactly right. But doesn't mean, it just means it hasn't sorted itself out yet. So let's leave that for right now. We have some services that we need to perform. One service, like we said, blowing out the computer's dust, can be done by many technicians. One technician, again the keyword one technician can perform many services. We have an issue here, right? Yes, to be resolved in step 5. Not yet. Many to manys are not bad. They just can't be implemented, and we're in phase 3. Okay, one work order can have many services applied to it, right? We're going to blow it out. We're going to scan for viruses, and we're going to add RAM. Each one of those services could be done to the same work order. So that's a many. Who wants to volunteer? Who's not sure they got it yet? Okay, Lyle, let's go the other direction.
No, not that.
Oh, sorry, this direction.
No, wait, that wasn't my question.
That's not, I didn't ask of you. You volunteered, so hand up.
Okay.
Okay. What do you start with?
One.
One what?
What's that one? Services.
Service. Yep.
Okay, one service. And what's the one under? I can't read it.
You can't read it, but Sam can. Sam, read it for no. Here, let me make it bigger.
I have an eye appointment coming up this week. So I can't read your big ass word from this far. I got it.
What did I just do? hit some magic key to zoom in just for him. I don't want that.
Split screen.
How did I do that? I hit Command plus.
Point out that on your side.
Get rid of it. Oh, there it is. You, go away.
With work orders equal.
I'll zoom in. Hang on.
I could always just move up front for a few minutes.
How's that? Better? Come up here. What the heck were you sitting back just because Eric's there? And Steve's done the same thing. He's printed it out supersized so you can see it. That's fine. I have a few extra chairs. Can you see now? Okay. One service. Right? One service
One service.
can be included on,
Many work orders.
again, the service is blowing out your computer.
Right.
So this is another one of those, oh my God, hair in the back of my neck, standing up, many-to-many relationship. Now I've drafted you, but you had a question. So lay it on me.
Would work orders be before services, or does that not matter?
What do you mean before?
Well, in order to do a service, you should have a work order.
True. So,
Well, I'm just wondering if it makes.
and before I have any parts or even before I have work orders, I should have. The order doesn't make a lot of difference, but the connectivity will make a difference. Okay, the order is a different process now. Now you're starting to look at the front end of this thing. What do I got to have first? Well, I got to have a customer. So a person comes up to the window, and what do? We ask them their name. We look. They're not in the database, so we add them before we ask them what the heck you want me to do. But if they're already in the database, then cool, that's done. Now what do you want to have done this time? Or maybe the question is, what kind of device do you have for me? And we check, and sure enough, we've had this computer here before. Well, we haven't. The procedure for how to get to this data and how to collect it, in what order, in what sequence, that's a different question. The question we're focusing on here is which tables are related to what tables so that we can put them together and we can modify the procedures to whatever the clinic people want. Our data will handle it. So the order of these doesn't make a lot of difference. I tend to find that when I do these databases, they're just kind of the central thing that everybody wraps around, and it looks like for this one, it's work orders. It's not in the center, but it might have saved me some of these crossing lines here if I had put it in the center, but I don't know that. That's also where whiteboards come in handy. I have a whiteboard version of this, and then I finally pretty it up in Visio. So no, there's no sequence there, and you don't have to necessarily do the relationships in the right order. I'm jumping all over the map here, right? Well, kind of. If there's a way that feels more comfortable to you, left to right, top to bottom, inside out, it's up to you. But every relationship that we find that we feel is a direct relationship needs to have its cardinality defined. Nathan, talk to me about work orders and devices. What's the relationship? Don't help him, not yet.
Just start like normal.
Pick one. Where are you going to start? You want to start with devices or work orders? You just pick one.
Orders, I guess.
Okay, so what's the magic word?
One work order,
Okay,
main devices.
I don't think so. If you bring in 2 computers, I'm giving you 2 work orders. Does that make sense to you? All right, so for me, 1 work order is for 1 and only 1 device. Now the other direction, Nathan.
One device. One.
Makes sense? Unless you have my father. He's had his Best Buy that he's got a frequent flyer plan there. Every 2 months, I swear, he takes it back. So whatever he's doing, the antivirus software they're installing, he's getting around it, and he gets infected with something. He's one of those that loves I'm the princess from Nigeria, I have lots of money, help me out, boom. No. You'd think the antivirus program would be able to catch that by now. But his device, that same computer, has come back to the shop. The same shop, our clinic, potentially more than once. And so that device could appear on many work orders. Now, Nathan said 1, and you all went, yep. And that's really cool. And we build this and we build the front end, and then the thing that you didn't anticipate happens. Volker's dad brings his computer in for the second time. Do you really want to enter it into the devices table twice? No, you do not. But if there's a one-to-one relationship with it and its work order, you have to. What we're going to do here is say this work order is for that device, and now here's another work order, same device. That also gives us the ability to say, what have we done to this thing? Give me a list of all the work orders for device number 27. Boom, 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 boom. Geez, he's been here with viruses every 2 months. Maybe we ought to try a different antivirus software package for him. Maybe free isn't such a good idea for him. And we can do those kinds of analyses. We can give discounts to people who show up with all their stuff, their whole family's computers and everything. We can give them discounts if they're here a lot. We can do those kinds of things. But the key point is start with the word one and go the other direction. If you've got the wrong cardinality, we'll figure it out. I'll mark it wrong. And you'll go, oh, wait, and we'll explain it. Okay, Robert, convince me. Let's do services and issues.
One service can have many issues, and one issue can have one service.
He said it right. Now let's see if we all agree with it.
Actually, I think it'd be one issue can be on many services.
Could be resolved by, so what's an issue? That's, well, you know, that he said good question. I'm not the one who's supposed to be asking it. Right. One issue. What's an issue?
Like a broken screen.
Broken screen. I got a virus. I want more RAM.
Shoot, wouldn't it be one-to-one then?
Maybe.
I do not have a relationship between.
That's another possibility that we said it's direct, but maybe it's not. I kind of think that maybe it is. I think our thought process here last time was there are some services that we provide, like blowing out your computer and virus scanning, that are not because there's an issue. It's just because we do it. It's like, remember I said the Scastidi car wash. You need your oil changed. That's an issue. Right? But we also wash your car even though you didn't ask for it. And we want to track that we washed your car, so when this paint starts coming off, we know who to blame. Okay, so I think there maybe is a relationship there. Let's go the other direction real quick here. Let's do this one. Maybe that'll help clarify it, because we've already got a relationship here. We got a relationship here. One work order could have many issues on it, right? I brought my computer in, and 1, 2, 3, here's all my issues. You're all kind of nodding at me, so okay, we're in agreement there. One issue, again, here's the definition of an issue. My computer is too slow. Could that be a problem on his work order and her work order and his work order? I think so, if that's how we define an issue. So this is kind of a list of the things that people have come in and said, this was what's wrong with my computer. The screen's broken. The keyboard doesn't work. It's too slow. And so we'll have a list of choices that we could pick from potentially. Those issues, if we define them as that, and you guys have to help me remember. Hopefully the recording will work. Okay. But that tells me that this is a list of issues that we have seen in the clinic. So if this is keyboard's broken, one issue like keyboard broken can be resolved by many different services, right? Because when I fix his broken keyboard, that's one service. When I fix his broken keyboard, that's another service. So I think this is a many-to-many relationship. Well, I'm sorry, at least a one issue can be on many services, can be dealt with by many services. This little guy here has got me confused. I can see it's confusing you too, at least on number of your faces. What are these services versus work orders versus issues? I'm not quite sure. The issue is my keyboard's broken. The service might be replace the keyboard. Okay. So the issue may be my computer's too slow, and there may be multiple services like virus scanning and adding RAM that resolve it. One service resolves many issues? I don't think so. Replace the keyboard. That resolves one issue, broken keyboard. One service, add RAM. Remember that an issue is related to a work order. My suspicion, this is what I suspect right now. I don't want to spend too much more time on this. My suspicion is that this is correct, but my suspicion is also that there's a little more here that we don't see. This is a many-to-many relationship, which means there's another table in between. This is a many-to-many relationship, which means there's another table in between. This relationship, maybe this is linked to there instead of there. That's what we might not be seeing. This circle here makes me nervous. What I mean by nervous is that there's something I'm not seeing here. That's something that you and I as a team, not today, are going to have to resolve. This is our first stab at that. This, to me, is a little bit complicated. Customers and work orders. We said one customer can have many work orders. We said one work orders for one customer, for one device, right? So there's that relation. Notice the customer and their devices are not immediately related. That seems odd. But because that relationship between customer and devices for us, they're linked together by work orders. Linked together. All right, Pam, help me out on these last ones here. Where do you want to start? This relationship's what I'm looking at. Pick one.
One work order should only be for, should have one payment.
Okay. Now the other direction.
One payment could have multiple work orders
How do you mean?
if
Because I think you're right, but explain it for the rest of us.
I bring in my computer with a broken screen and my printer that keeps jamming.
Both at the same time.
Yes.
Pick them up at the same time. Write one check. Sounds possible, right?
That's total.
Could be. Gonna have to figure that out. Good thing we have a database that said this work order's got a total of $35 and that other work order's got a total of $70. I want to pay for both at the same time. That'll be $105, please. That makes sense to me. The alternative is we go, no. Do we have a payment plan in the clinic? I don't think so. So this relationship, one work order has one payment is absolutely correct. You don't get to pick up your printer till you've paid in full, and we don't want any partial payments, so just stick the money in your piggy bank, and when you got the full amount, come get your computer. They don't deal with that. The other direction of can I pay for both at the same time, and do we actually store it that way, is a different question. Okay. And I think one-to-many makes sense. Like she said, I got two devices, bought them both in at the same time, picking them both up at the same time. I'm just going to write one check. What's involved here is another question. We've had the same problem at Lions. Do we really care what check number it was? Do we care what the amount was? Do we care what the amount was?
Yes. Yeah.
Hell no. The cost was $35. If you didn't pay $35, what else would it be? I'm not so sure about this table. About the only thing I can see in that table is, yep, they paid. Nope, they didn't. Maybe when?
With the type of payment.
Maybe, but you know what? Why do I care? If I'm the clinic, does the clinic take credit cards? The clinic doesn't take money. You pick up your payment, you pick up a piece of paper, you go to the front desk, pay for it, then they stamp it as paid, and then you get to pick up your stuff. No? Now they take money?
They have boxes somewhere.
That sounds fun.
They just have a box with cash.
Let's see if my key works on that back door back there. I'm kind of hungry for lunch today, and see if the clinic has a way for me to pick that up. But it used to be. Now, that's the other problem we have here. You have my misperceptions of the clinic because it used to be run by, or at least coordinated by me. And we did take cash. If you want to pay with a credit card, then you got to go to the front desk. If you paid cash, yes, it went into a cigar box that was hiding someplace. If you pay with check, I don't remember what I did there. I think it was written to MSTC, so I can't cash it, so it went to the front desk. But if it was cash, it was kind of nice to have a little floating cash account for the clinic that I could use to pay for small pieces of things or buy some technician software or whatever it is I wanted to do with it. So I'm guessing they still do the same thing. But I'm not sure what I want to know about payments.
If they have a different service besides, if it needs any equipment at all, like if you need a new screen or if you need anything else, then you're $35 you pay, but then you also pay for the screen to be purchased.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why payments would be different sometimes.
No, because this work order said I did this service which required that part. Somewhere in here there's a price. And so that all gets tied to this work order. So the work order says, give me, this is the kind of thing you can do with relational databases. This work order said, give me a list of all the services that we performed. If there was a part involved, give me that part and its current price. If I get 10 of those services and they all have parts involved for some reason, then I can have a work order and it can total that all up. This, this looks a little, there's one crossing line here and that just kind of makes me a little crazy, but I could probably find a way around it. Probably by moving issues out here. If I move issues out here, I can still connect it to these two and not have the crossing lines get me confused. But the crossing lines don't matter. The point of this is not whether it's 100% correct, because I'm not convinced. I never am. At this stage, I'm never convinced that this is 100% correct. I'm never convinced when I'm given a program that it's 100% correct. But I want it to be as best I can do, and right now, with the knowledge that we have, this is the best that we can do. And we'll take it from there. The next phases will help us. Go ahead, Steve.
So we're satisfied with this because
No, I just said I'm not. It's as good as I can do.
I
Yeah.
start with the customer having a direct relationship to the device, and then give the device a direct relationship to the work order like you had. So I've got the customer up on top of above that.
Customers' direct relationship to devices. But then my work order has an indirect relationship. Ooh. So you're saying there's no direct relationship between the customer and the work order. The customer
has to get the work order to the device. And the device is two different kinds, and then they relate to the manufacturer. The manufacturer relates to parts.
Very good. Let me think. We have an indirect relationship between customers and devices.
That's good.
But customers really own their devices, is what you're saying. And so this work order is not for a customer, it's for a device. Wow.
Do you have anything about devices?
The only risk there, Steve,
Yeah.
is if the same device comes in under two customers.
Yeah.
Is it possible?
Yeah. it's-
Yeah,
it's
likely,
stuff.
probably not. Well, I don't know. A lot of you are going to look at your laptop saying, I don't want this anymore. Let's sell it to somebody who really wants it, and I'll get a new one. Maybe.
Yeah.
Because if we go the other direction, then I have this device that's tied to that customer. What happens when I sell it? I've lost the relationship that was there before.
Yeah.
Where if I do it this way, the device could be for this work order is for Lyle for that laptop. And then here's a different order for Kathy with that laptop. Same laptop. I can do that with this relationship. I can't do it with the other. I think this is better, but you sure had me thinking about it. Joni.
But isn't each record supposed to be a unique instance of, say, the device? So if there were two devices exactly the same, there's going to be something unique about them, like a serial number
Correct.
or something.
Correct. I could have all kinds of Toshiba laptops that are all the same model coming in.
Right.
Right. But that's part of what this computers could be. Okay. Here's a device that was brought in.
Just like books, there's many copies of the same book.
Yeah.
But when you're talking one computer, you're talking about that unique one computer. You're not talking about all Toshiba.
Correct. I'm not talking about any, nowhere here am I making a complete list of devices that we've ever seen in the shop. When I look at this device here, I'm thinking of that laptop that used to be Lyle's. That one laptop. One of the common fields that both of these printers and computers have is that serial number. So every device that comes in, every device in this table has a serial number. So it's not the fact, and then it could be additional information like who's the manufacturer. Though that is already in here. How much RAM did that one have? If it's a printer, what additional, there may not, I don't know if there's anything we want to know additional about printers. That table may go away. I don't know. But you're right, for every one of these, you have to have a clear notion of what we're talking about. Because devices could be considered two different things. Could be considered a manufacturer, a Toshiba laptop with its model number, right? Do I really want to keep that as a lookup? My gut feel, probably not. My manufacturers like Dell and Gateway and Compaq and HP and IBM, etc. That's a nice list to have. To look it up, this device was made by that customer, by that manufacturer. But when I think devices here, I'm thinking of an individual device. There are probably 20 copies of this remote floating around this building someplace. But when I'm thinking about the device, I'm thinking about this one with serial number, whatever's on the back there that's so small I can't read it. That's what I see in devices for the clinic. Someplace else, the device might be whatever the Panasonic projector remote with some model number. That's the device. And then later on, we have an individual clone of that. Which of the clones are we talking about here? Me personally, I don't think I need the fact that I have a Panasonic remote. I need each of if there's 6 of them, there will be duplicates in here. You're right. A lot of that data will be repeated. And a purist might say, no, we're not repeating any data. Like Panasonic remote, Panasonic remote, Panasonic remote.
So that takes us back.
But we're not keeping an inventory. Right? There may be duplicates in here where we have an HP laptop and then another HP laptop and then another HP laptop. But each one of those has a unique identifier. And I think splitting devices and individual devices is not in our interest here. Sorry, go back to your question.
Back to the customer being connected to the device.
Yeah.
I think that's
We'll have to see why.
customer brings in the device, the unique device.
What do you want to know?
If again the device should be before the customer should be connected to the device, which is connected to the workforce.
Yeah, that's a possibility. Except that devices and customers are not, I don't think they're directly related. Because devices can be transferred to different customers, and as soon as they are, then all the records of the past that was done to this is attributed to you. The payment for the work order, because it's connected to this device, is attributed to you, even though Eric's the one who brought it in a couple of years ago. See how easy this is? And we've got 10 tables here, or whatever the magic number is. We've got 10 tables. Systems right now, I think we're in the 30 range. It gets even more complicated. And you can dwell on this and you can beat on it until you know it's perfect, and you can sixth normal form it if that's what you need to do, or you can say, this is a pretty good stab at it, let's move on. Kathy.
Is there a time in step 1 or 2 while you're defining your fields and your tables that you should actually get those definitions from your customer or whoever you're building it for? So you get to this step and you already have that definition of what is a device exactly?
My first instinct is to say good luck with that. If you have the questions, I'm making an assumption that a customer or that a device can be brought in by 2 different customers. You could ask, does that happen? Because I need to know. Is it the Steve relationship, the Steve and Joni relationship, or is it the way I initially came up with it? Right. Because their relationship makes just as much sense to me, and it's just as good. Mine will handle both, I think. But theirs is just as good if one device is never brought in by more than one customer. They might not even know. And that's why I say good luck with that, because they might not know depending on who you ask. Me, I would, the downside with the clinic is every year we swap out technicians for the next batch. And so they don't necessarily have that historical perspective.
Yeah, I see where that would be important to know that this device has come back.
Yep. Yep. And so when you have questions, and we're making assumptions, right? Right now, I'm answering those assumptions. And when we're making those assumptions, that's something you write them down and you ask. When you're making assumptions on your 5 tables, if I'm in a room, ask. If I'm not, email me. If you're not comfortable with emailing me every 15 minutes, then write down your questions and your assumptions and send them all to me at once. That's fine too. Okay, I'm going to save this.
Do Booleans get their own tables?
Do Booleans get, not necessarily.
It's kind of what I was questioning on devices, your table devices,
Mm-hmm.
where you branch off and have your subtables of table computers and table printers.
Mhm.
Isn't that more of a Boolean question than
Not necessarily, because the device that I have here, it's a good question. I'm going to wait for them to be ready. Kathy, let's save that. Kathy, let's save that for 2 minutes. I'm going to let you guys sort this out. Kathy, Steve, hang on a second. All right, in 2 minutes, I'm going to cut you loose and you can go back to that conversation. And actually, I'm going to ask you to work together on those 5 and see if you can come up with the same set of direct relationships as a group. All right. But Lyle's question is, it either is a computer or it is a printer. It's not one or the other. That's not the point here. The point here is, if it's a computer, I need additional information about that I don't need for printers. Okay. And if it's a printer, I might want additional information like inkjet laser, like, that's all that comes across to me right now. Right? The printers might go away. Right? But the computers is it's details about a device, a specific kind of device. Its processor, it's the RAM, the size of the hard drive, size of the screen if it's a laptop. I don't know. Maybe you're right. Right now, this was our first instinct, and depending on what we're storing about that computer when it comes in, these might go away. They might go away. That makes life easy, doesn't it, when they go away? But this was our first stab at it. Things are going to change. I'm going to save this. What I would like you to do between now and 12:30, if you need a break, obviously take it, but between now and 12:30 is within your little rows there, and if there's nobody in your row, then move. All right. Within your rows of 3, tackle those 5 practice exercises and see if you can come up with some consensus just in your little group of what the relationships are. You do not, and if you wish, you may start putting in the cardinality. First thing I want to know, I want you to think about is what are the direct relationships? Then, if you have time, and you're still here, work the cardinalities. If you don't have time, go home and work the cardinalities. Cardinalities should be a lot easier than the direct relationships. Don't send them to me, we're not done yet. Bring them with you next time so that you can have those as the foundation for the next part of this exercise. There you go.